So, Josh, we are here again, this time to talk about Switch rumors.
Yeah, things are starting to heart up a bit, aren't they?
Yeah, so I'm not so sure that what's come out is what everyone expects it to be, because everyone was expecting a Switch Pro.
So that's the rumors that's been going around for like since last summer, isn't it? Like a Switch Pro to like.
Yeah, it looks like it's just like not even a slight revision, but not what everyone, like the major revision everyone was thinking it's going to be.
So what's the difference between a Switch Pro and what's about to come out? Because I see, I'm seeing things like DLSS 4K, OLED screen on the front. Um,
Yeah, they said it's gonna support 4K, but I can't see it. I can see it. DLSS is a piece of technology that allows you to run a resolution, but then
yeah, it's just AI upscaling. It works quite well, but thinking back now, right? Every time I play the Switch, I play it on a 1080p TV, but obviously the Switch only outputs 720, or it renders at 720, even if it's outputting at 1080.
it can no it can some games do support 1080p on when the Switch is docked and it's hooked up to the TV. Some games can play at 1080p or 900p, but the Switch screen itself is 720p, then you're limited to 720p.
That's what they're optimized for.
But the thing that everyone doesn't really understand is the screen. The new screen is OLED screen. That's going to be really good. But it's still limited to 720p. Why not at least 1080p?
Well, that one's easy. That's just battery life, isn't it? Like the battery life isn't great on the console at the moment. I know it's got better in the later versions because we literally bought our Switch like a month before they did that revision, and then they brought out the version that's got slightly better battery life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but if you've got a Switch and it's like running 1080p or you know um, tuning it up to 4K or something, you really don't need it at that size screen. And it's like if you could choose between 720p and 1080p or 4 or 5 hours battery life when you're sat on a bus, you know you want the 5 hours, don't you?
Yeah, you, and that's the kind of the problem. It's like it seems because hackers have managed to hack the Switch, and what they've done is
Yeah,
to increase like frame rate or resolutions.
yeah.
They've had to what's the word, accelerate the power outage. But then that drains the battery a lot quicker. So giving it more
Yeah,
power.
and that's just the trade off of everything. You look at phones, and it's like Android phones. They've always got this whole thing where it's like, yeah, you can get the latest Snapdragon processor or whatever, but if you run it at full pelt, um, then you're going to pay for that in battery. And then it's no wonder, like when Apple take their iPhones. Yes, I'm going to bring Apple into this. Apple bring their iPhones with their shiny CPUs, and where they own the whole stack, sort of like what Nintendo does, where you can say, oh, software, you're expecting to run at this CPU for this sort of like performance sort of metric. Well, the iPhone the iPhone CPUs are often sort of like down spec from what the processors could actually do if given more power. But obviously, more power would mean the iPhone battery wouldn't last as long. And as we all know, iPhones don't have a very large battery, but quite often outperform most Android phones sort of like in their price range, and only get beaten by the ones with like 5,000 milliamp hour batteries anyway. So Nintendo, like, they make the hardware. They don't write the software, but well, they do for a lot of their games. So like they
Yeah,
can be like, oh hey, here's your parameters. We could give you 1.2 gigahertz, but that's going to take off half an hour. Oh, do you know something? I just got distracted by an advert. I turned off ad block earlier today, and this giant pink girl, well, a girl in giant pink stuff for a Dell XPS laptop advert has just popped up on my screen.
Right.
Apparently, that's what the internet thinks I am, a girl with pink hair. Okay, let's close that window. Get rid of that. But yeah, so if you can choose between like 1.2 or 1 gigahertz, or however the actual power into a CPU works, for the handheld bit where you're not going to necessarily notice the higher frame rate, not the frame rates, the higher resolutions, it'd be good if they could push, as long as they can keep the refresh rate, high, as long as you can keep like your 30 FPS. I think that's absolutely fine for the majority of handheld use. And then when you plug it into power, when you plug it into telly, run it up to 1080, scale it up to 4K, and I think that will, you've got the best of both worlds that way.
And you got a new OLED screen, so that's gonna look nice as well.
That's going to be interesting though. So a lot of people might be running their, so like we don't have an OLED TV, so we're potentially going to end up with it having a worse image on the TV than we would have on the device itself, apart from the resolution. So it's like you almost get a different gaming experience if you can see all these vibrant colours on the little device itself, but you put it up in your telly and everything looks dull and dreary and grayscale and everything.
Yeah, I'm not sure if handhelds have this, but are you worried about burning? Because a lot of TVs.
Well, yeah. I mean, as soon as you said OLED, it's like that's the main thing, and obviously games are the worst for burning in terms of like TVs and that, because there's you got all these assets on screen that just don't move. So whether Nintendo are going to do something like jiggle everything around a bit on screen a little bit, but to do that you need more pixels. Otherwise, you're going to notice that your whole screen's sort of like wobbling about a bit. That could be a bummer. You've already got the issue with drift on the Joy-Cons, and then you're going to introduce the issue with burning on the OLED. It's like, you can't really win, can you? Make sure you get your warranty out on those things.
So, do you think this new console will compete against the PS5 and Xbox One Series X? Like, can it, I think there's a new Resident Evil game, like Resident Evil Village. Could you see a port of that game on the new Switch, and will it still be on the older models that you have?
So here's the thing, right? Is this rumored Switch a Switch U, as in a new generation console with the same name, or is it a hyped up version of the current Switch? Because those are two separate things.
Yeah, I generally think this is gonna be like what they're doing with the 2DS. Like 3DS XL.
So all the same games would run.
Yeah, well,
so if a Switch game came out, let's say this Switch comes out in August. If a Switch game came out the following January, would that be able to be played on both of them off the same cartridge? Like, you buy a PS4 disc, you can put it in the PS4 or the PS4 Pro, and they both play just fine.
I remember there was a game on the Nintendo 3DS. I think it was one of the Resident Evil games that came out, and they just flat out saying, this is not going to play on the original 3DS. You need to either get a 3DS XL or a new 3DS XL. So they could do that. They could say, oh, this is not going to be able to play this. You need to upgrade your system.
I mean, the reason I ask is because if it is the Switch U, where it is essentially the next generation for Nintendo, then yeah, maybe it could compete with PS5. Maybe not completely, but because Nintendo's always not exactly step in step with Xbox and the PS5. But if it's the Switch U, then maybe, because obviously the Wii U was a different generation to the Wii. If it's just literally the Switch Pro, where it plays all the same games, just slightly fancier, then probably not. It's still that sort of like half generation behind. It's sort of like in between the PS4 and the PS5, and between the Xbox One and the Xbox Series.
It's funny you say that. The actual Switch hardware is actually probably less capable than the PS3.
Well, But that doesn't really matter, though, does it? Because the PS3, as we know, wasn't a very good console.
They have their own exclusives, Nintendo. But the worry is for me is like,
Sorry, before anyone gets too upset, when I say the PS3 wasn't a very good console, I mean to develop for. It was notoriously bad. I don't mean the PS3 in general were bad, just
yeah,
like whatever was going on, coding for it was like inefficient or whatever. It just wasn't a. It's like when people say like there's more power in my Fitbit than there was on the computer that went to the moon. It's like, well, they're different things, different time periods and everything. So it doesn't really matter if the PS3 was more powerful than the Switch if the Switch can still do everything better.
Yeah, well, I would say that the biggest worry would be that most of the games that they brought to Switch are ports of the Wii U library. And my worry is in the future, I see less games getting ported from the PS5 and Xbox One Series X to the Switch, where you have seen ports of PS4 games or Xbox One games ported to the Switch, like Witcher 3.
Yeah, they've always, you got Skyrim as well.
Apex Legends onto the Switch.
Yeah, they've always been really delayed though, haven't they? It's like, the game comes out on its original platform and then almost years later before it actually appears on the Switch or the Nintendo variant at the time. I don't think that's Nintendo's game plan. They have such a strong first-party gaming IPs that they're not too worried about everything else. And like particularly, think about Legend of the Wild, Breath of the Wild, and you think about the graphic style that it does have, and like I said, like I don't know if it runs at 720 or 900 or 1080, but it looks okay because of the style of graphics it is. I don't think Horizon Zero Dawn would run on the Switch at any resolution just because of the way that game looks and how it handles everything. But Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart, they all look great. They're poppy, aren't they? They're really colourful, cartoony, and that really works well. I'm surprised The Witcher runs on it.
Yeah, but that runs really, really poorly. Like that's not the recommended version to play it on. But if you really needed to and it's on a handheld, then it's there.
Well, there you go. When was the Switch? When did the Switch come out?
I think it's like July 2017.
Okay, so The Witcher was about 2.5. So The Witcher was 2.5 years old at the time.
Yeah, it's like 4 years old. The console itself now.
Because I know Skyrim SE's on it, and that's when did that?
Oh, that must have been like 2015, 16.
Yeah, October 2016. So it seems to be that HD-ish games of 2015 can run on the Switch at the moment. So if you got the Switch Pro, you might be able to play The Witcher finally, or The Witcher 3. I'll tell you something though, that game looks glorious on a 2070 Super. Jen's been playing it for the last few months on my old PC. And for some reason, we swapped computers, and because she was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but then she was playing some of her other games on here, and The Witcher 3 was one of them, and she was like, "Oh, it looks so nice." But I kicked her out so I could play my games on here.
Good. So, in general, will you be picking up a new Switch revision, or would you keep what you got? Because for me, I still haven't got a Switch.
No, there will not be a Switch for sale in this household, Tom.
No, I mean, are you okay? But are you gonna pick up So you're gonna keep? That means you're gonna keep?
No, we don't. We just don't need one. Like,
okay,
we got the Switch and we've got a few games for it. We don't have that many. I keep pondering about like the Xbox Series, and then I remember I have like 3 games on the Xbox One. So it's like there really isn't any point in me getting any of the current gen consoles. Not at the moment, not while I haven't got infinite money to just like throw away on these sort of things.
Fair enough, fair enough. Well, you could make money by selling your graphics card and make a profit, probably.
Yes, but then I wouldn't be able to play any games.
On-board graphics, mate.
I have an AMD. I don't have onboard.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So what about you? So what about?
But anyway, yeah, for me, I'm still I'm not sure whether to pull the trigger yet, because I still think there's gonna be at some point.
Well, it doesn't really matter. You can't buy them.
Huh? Yeah, I probably wouldn't be because the shortage is right now. But I don't think it's time to buy a new Switch. I think there's still gonna be something down the road in a few years. There has to be, because they can't sustain this kind of.
No, I don't think you're right there. If you want to get on the Switch platform, I think you would probably do well to wait for whatever this is going to be, because obviously you'll be able to play everything from when it came out in 2017 up to currently. I think the Switch is going to be around as this platform for a few more years. I don't think I don't think there'll be much of a change, anytime soon. Just because of thinking about the how would you say that, the appetization of games. So, you look at the Xbox, and so many of the games run on so many different platforms. It doesn't matter if you got a One, a Series, or a PC, and the games will just play on all three of them. And I suspect Nintendo might sort of like go along that way a little bit, because they got the whole Nintendo store going on with them.
Yeah, and they got a lot of crossplay as well, multiplayer.
So what are you currently on? Are you PS4, Xbox One?
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna dip into a next gen system, and probably till there's like a slim.
A current gen system.
So I said that again.
A current gen system.
Well,
PS5 and Xbox Series, they are currently current gen systems. You, my friend, are on a previous gen console.
That is true now. Yeah, I suppose
That's
because
how it
they've
works.
come out. But I suppose if you're rare, if you're lucky enough to see one or buy one, then it's a blessing. But for me, there's no games at the minute, and there's a massive shortage of trying to get these consoles, and there's loads of scalpers and stuff. So you might as well just wait till the games come out.
What about playing your current games at better quality, higher resolution?
Yeah, but there's just okay, if you want to play some older games and high resolutions, that's cool if you got the money to do that. But there's nothing really driving me to say I need this right now, and I need to find a scalper and pay him like £1,000.
I don't think it's that bad in the UK. I
think no.
I know PS5s are flying off the shelves, but I think the Xboxes aren't quite as.
Yeah. PS5s are they're going like crazy, but Xbox, you're more likely to pick up an Xbox than a PS5. But everyone wants a PS5. I would be leaning towards the Xbox because of the backwards compatibility.
And if you ever did get Game Pass, you can play all of them games on your PC as well. And the great thing about that is you've got a partner, or in the future you've got kids. You can use Game Pass if you set it up correctly, and do multiplayer between the PC and the Xbox. So if you want to play Forza Horizon together, you can do that, which is quite cool. So that's quite useful. Let's say you want to play Minecraft with your kids, you could do that, and not, you could, your daughter could have the big telly, and you could sit with your computer up in the loft, and you can play together.
Yeah, maybe. I think that'll be a long way away before I get anything like a next gen system though. I think I'll wait for a slim, and I think most people will be waiting. They'll be looking, because you're not gonna get one, and if you do get one, you do what everyone else is doing right now and just selling it on eBay for like twice the price and make money. That's what I would do.
So if you went to Tesco
Yeah.
and you saw a PS5 there for £600, you'd buy it and flip it.
I wouldn't pay over the is it RPP?
MSRP.
yeah, I wouldn't pay over it, but if I got it for the retail price and I managed to get one, then I would try and sell it, yeah, for double, maybe even triple.
So you don't want to support the scalpers, but you'll happily be one.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Why not?
Why not, indeed?
But yeah, I think I think I realized this now is not the time to buy anything new. I think now is the time to look at what you got and think, you know what? I never played that before. Maybe I'll give it a try.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if you're 38, you're stuck on a boat in a canal.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose so.
Don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
Sorry.
You don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
I think I do.
The Suez Canal.
Yeah.
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 So thinking about the Switch Pro,
Mhm.
don't think about what it is going to be.
Yeah.
Think about what you would want it to be. What would you want it to be?
I would like it to be a 1080p Switch screen. I'd like it to be a 4K console, and I would like it to support ray tracing,
Okay.
and that pretty much sums it up. But I do not see that for one bit because that will cost them. Well, Microsoft and Sony have done it, but for Nintendo to do it, then I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if they might not like. I don't mean to be down on Nintendo, but I don't know if they've got the engineering talent to kind of do that kind of jump from what they currently offer.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would maybe, yeah, maybe like the third party stuff, but I'm not sure about first party games or they would have to release patches for older games to then support 4K. But then if they're saying that this new revision is gonna support up to 4K, not technically 4K, but an upscale technique.
The way I've seen it reported in the rumors is that older games won't get the DLSS.
Yeah.
If you want DLSS, you'll have to bake it into your game somehow with some kind of fancy code. I don't know technically how that works, but it's not like they're looking at the pixels and making 4 of them. I think there's something a bit more involved, which probably makes a bit more sense, because that way you could probably almost preload the AI with stuff and you'll probably get a better result out the other end. Whereas if you're just guessing like the current DLSS does, it could be a bit more random. So I don't know exactly how that would work because I'm not a game programmer or whatever who does things like DLSS, but I can certainly see how on a lower powered console, if you want to do things like DLSS, all this sort of AI stuff, the more data you can put in at the beginning, the better the outcome is going to be for less processing stuff. So that might be why they're not doing older games but newer games, or maybe games that are being actively developed. So Fortnite might get it because obviously that's constantly being updated, but maybe you won't see it on Mario Kart Deluxe 8, whatever it's called.
I just got one more last thing to say. Just a question. I don't know if you know about this, but they've recently released the Mario Kart not Mario Kart, the Mario collection, like Super Mario collection, and they released it I think full price, and I think they said this is only available physically for a few weeks, and then it's strictly going digital only. So everyone's rushing out to get all these physical copies, but then it turns out that they haven't even rewritten the code or anything. They're just running on an emulator, but then they're charging £50. I don't know how you feel about that. They're just taking a load of stuff that they had before and then just putting it on the Switch and then charging ridiculous money.
I mean, capitalism, they can charge whatever they like, and if people buy it at £50, then they've charged the right price. If they sell it for £50 and no one buys it, then they've priced it too high. And Nintendo is one of those companies where there are some people who will always buy their games no matter what.
Yeah.
It's not really, It's not about how I feel about it, because I never played the games originally, because growing up, we only had one games console and it wasn't a Nintendo. So, I mean, I don't have any nostalgia about it. How would I feel if they re-released the game that I spent all my years playing? Well, they did, and then I bought it, and that was the Spyro trilogy. So maybe there's your answer.
Yeah, fair enough. For me though, I would not pay that like ridiculous money for. Yeah, but the thing is, I'd be okay if it was like a remaster and they rewrote the code to work on like a new game engine, but they just took the games and then made them, or built an emulator to then run on the Switch, and then
Seems a little bit lazy, but as long as it's all their own work, they haven't stolen it from someone like they did before, then I guess that's fine.
I just think it's just a bit lazy just to just build an emulator.
Oh, absolutely, but Marvel Cinematic Universe probably could have been done in 10 movies, but they'd have only made half as much money. That's what it comes down to, doesn't it? One final thing, slightly related to what we're talking about, but not gaming related.
Mm-hmm.
So, AI upscaling, it has become a huge thing recently. I know you love upscaling. You like talking about running your old gaming systems through various upscalers to see your 360p games in glorious 4K and whatnot.
Yeah.
I have been watching a whole load of Marvel Cinematic Universe clips on YouTube. It's just a phase that I'm going through. Don't at me. I just really like watching Iron Man suit up clips.
Okay.
Something that I have noticed is someone, for some reason, has decided to upscale the original clips, and they're not upscaling them in resolution. They are upscaling them in frame rate. So instead of having a nice cinematic 24 frames per second video, you're having this weirdly lifelike 60 FPS film. And the worst one was the end of Age of Ultron, where Thor, Cap, and Tony Stark are talking about the worthiness of an elevator and that whole end scene, and it looks horrendous. It is an assault on the eyes to see a real human on your TV screen as opposed to someone masked by the blurriness of 24 frames per second. But that aside, the amount of artifacts that the upscaler has introduced creates so many blobby messes in the whole video that I don't understand how it is an upgrade from the original footage. Why is everyone obsessed with artificial intelligence upscaling?
Well, I'm not sure if it's related to. So you're talking about the movies themselves, and they're in 4K.
They're not in 4K. They're in 1080p, but they're upscaling from 24 frames per second to 60.
Okay, so you're on about the frame rates.
A lot of I know back in about 10 years ago, TV manufacturers, they brought this sort of like, they call it like true life motion something or another. But it was more commonly referred to as a soap opera effect.
Yes.
And it made films look like you were watching EastEnders, and it was horrible. And for some reason, we still want to do this. Why do we still want to do this? I don't understand
most modern 4K displays have this effect. You can disable it.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
My TV did when I bought it.
No, don't bring 4K into this. Most modern TVs have this. It's not about 1080p. It's not about 4K. It's just TVs.
Yeah. TVs, yeah, that's correct. Most modern TVs, yeah.
But yeah, for some reason, people want to bring it into clips on YouTube as well.
It looks bad. It just looks like a jittery mess.
But here's the thing. So in this particular scene, there's two moments where it is really egregious, and it's as Cap and Tony walk out of the Avengers facility, and above them on a catwalk, a whole load of troops run past. And if you look at their feet, they don't look like feet. It's almost like a centipede is running across. They're all blurred together. And then as Cap and Tony walk along, again, you can mostly see it in the fast movements. So things like their feet is where you can see these sort of like, it's just really blurry. It's like when you use if you're painting and you sort of like, when you're painting and then you sort of like rub water into the paint and it kind of makes it all smudgy.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit like that. And then when Tony's car drives in, you can see it a little bit on the wheels as well. It's like, this doesn't look good. The original video probably looked just fine. Why did you do this? I just don't understand.
Where was you watching? Where was your source? Was it like from the Blu-ray or?
I haven't got a clue. I was watching it on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
These are just random two. These are 2-minute clips. There's a few YouTube channels that just every day, every week they upload a 2-minute video clip, and I presume when they get flagged, they'll wait a week and then re-upload it.
Okay. Well, yeah, they must be doing something.
Yeah, it's the YouTube algorithm feeding it. I think I have watched the entirety of the MCU in 3-minute clips over the last 3 weeks.
Pirate.
I've already seen the films. I've paid for them. Marvel have my money. I'm paying Disney Plus £7 a month anyway.
There you go. So why
Actually,
are you not watching it on
I'm
there? Why are
paying
you
for
watching it on
Disney
YouTube?
Plus. I have the license to watch every single film right now, so I shouldn't feel guilty about watching a 2-minute clip on YouTube. Like, what's the difference? And anyway, it's not illegal. Did you know it's not illegal to watch a pirated movie? It's illegal to share a movie. There is a difference. But I'm not a lawyer. If this is not true in your country, don't sue me.
Anyway, I think that pretty much wraps that up.
We should wrap it up there before I give out any more not fully true legal advice. This is not legal advice. I am not a lawyer.
And you don't hate PS3.
Don't hate PS3. Yeah.
And that weird woman in the advert is not looking at you right now.
No, she's gone. She's gone. No Dell XPSs for me in pink. I'll stick with me trusty MacBook. Thank you very much. Right. Thank you all. See you next week.
All right, guys. Yeah, don't forget to hit the like button. Please subscribe and catch you in the next video. Bye for now.
Should also point out that we are now available like real podcast in whatever podcast app you want to hear us in. So do that as well.
Sounds good to me.